Hello. Hello again. Here we are again with the new year dawning. This is Jim Ransom, and this program is Morning Jim Poetry. And we're going to venture into the mountaintops or trenches of poetry, whichever you prefer. Dawn is getting to be a word of unknown meaning out here in western Pennsylvania because it's always cloudy and overcast, and midwinter clouds, rain, and snow flurries are the order of, it seems like every day, although today we've had very little of it. And I would say that many of our neighbors here have fled to Florida, which is getting to be a branch community of the Pittsburgh suburbs. And who can blame them? We're in the dog days of winter, if you want to know it. But we are not here today to speak of the weather. Today I have some poems from this fat book. Let me show it to you. And it's called the New Yorker Book of Poems. And it was published in 1969. It covers most of the 20th century. And the book is loaded with poetry by many of the famous names that you will easily recognize. And obviously I can't read very many of them in our session today, but I've picked some that have a bit of humor in them, and also some poems that are very original, and poems that I like, which I think is an important factor. Anyway, we're going to get started here, let's see here. Yeah. There's a poem called Ill Met by Zenith by Ogden Nash. And it is a great and typical Ogden Nash type poem. But first, let me introduce you to the name Milton Cross. Some of you will remember that name. He was the announcer for the Met for something like 43 years, and he died during the 1974 season. He never stopped announcing, but he never quite made it through the 1974 season. He never retired. He just more or less died on the job. He actually didn't die on the job, but you know what I mean. He was famous for a sonorous and gentle voice, and his perfect pronunciation of foreign names and words. And Ogden Nash uses Milton Cross's perfect pronunciation as a theme of this poem. Ill Met by Zenith. Like, this book is so big, I'm going to have to wrestle it around here in order to read these poems. Like Stephen Vincent Benet, I have fallen in love with American names. Indeed, I even go so far as to call our own Thames the Thames. Why, then, am I saddened by the appearance of so many American names on the roster of the Metropolitan Opera? Well, not because I am as flighty as a butterfly, the flutteriest member of the order of Lepidoptera. No, it is because of my affection for the gentle dean of opera commentators, Milton Cross, without whose sonorous Saturday synopses my radio during the singing season would be a total loss. Here is the ultimate interpreter of a libretto. A man who can get 2 T's and 3 T's and 2 R's into his pronunciation of Rigoletto. A host both knowledgeable and suave. Impeccable in his differentiation between the Italian C and the double C, ch, as in his virtuosity with the German ach and umlauts and the French nasals and accents, both aigus and grave. He savors each name like a vintage rare and mellow. I love to taste with him such delectabilities as Loretta DeFranco, Raina Kavarvanska, Gabriela Tucci, Biserka Cevic, Gabor Carelli, Pekka Nuotio, Arturo Sergi, Anselmo Colzani, Mario Sereni, Tito Gobi, Elfego Esparza, Cesare Siepi, Giorgio Tozzi, and Ezio Flagello. I adore with him the exotic bouquet of other labels that the metropolitan cellars have a prodigious store of, such as Ludmila Dvorkova, Lily Chukasian, Rutsa Pospinov, Gaetano Bardini, Carlo Bergonzi, Flaviano Lobo, Ronaldo Gaiotti, and of course Nicola Jusilev and Nikolai Gienrov. An easy chair, an open fire. A radio tune by an opera with a cast of foreign artists and Maestro Cross in there, really giving. Boy, that's a living. But, oh, Beverly Bauer. Oh, Phyllis Curtin. Oh, Grace Bumbry. Jean Finn. Laurel Hurley. Shirley Love. Nell Rankin. Nancy Williams. And Evelyn Lear. I grant that each of you is a delight to hear. And, oh, James King. Jess Thomas. William Walker. Robert Merrill. Richard Tucker. William Dooley. George London. Jerome Hines. And Norman Scott. I grant that each of you is an artiste supreme, but names worthy of my idol's talents you have not. Oh, Rudolph Bing, when casting, remember one thing. None does more than Milton can to justify the Met to man. Milton Cross was certainly a voice that carried all sorts of unspoken meaning. Even my father-in-law, who's not ordinarily given to, let's say, high thoughts, he would lie down on the couch on the appropriate day of the week when the Met was on, and listen to Milton Cross and have his infusion of high-class music, which he truly did love, every week without any missing. Yes, indeed. Il Met by Zenith, a poem by Ogden Nash. Next, we're going to have a poem by John Updike, and again, I'm going to have to find it here. Yeah. John Updike, where are you, John? Yes, indeed. Okay, well, I will get to John. Oh, I found him. Okay, here's John Updike. John Updike. And He's written a poem called "V Be Nimble, V Be Quick." And the epigram for this poem is as follows. Science, pure and applied, by V.B. Wigglesworth, Fellow of the Royal Society, Quick, Professor of Biology in the University of Cambridge. A talk listed in the BBC Radio Times of February 2nd, 1955. And here's the poem. V.B. Wigglesworth wakes at noon, washes, shaves, and very soon is at the lab. He reads his mail, swings a tadpole by its tail, undoes his coat, removes his hat, dips a spider in a vat of alkaline, phones the press, tells them he is FRS, subdivides 6 protocells, kills a rat by ringing bells, writes a treatise, edits 2 symposia on will man do, gives a lecture, audits 3, has the sperm club in for tea, pensions off an aging spore, cracks a test tube, takes some pure science and applies it, finds his hat, adjusts it, pulls the blinds, instructs the jellyfish to spawn, and by 1 o'clock is gone. That's a poem by John Updike. And it's a well-wrought rhyming poem, but he's making fun of academe, he's making fun of science, and he's making fun particularly of Professor V.B. Wigglesworth, who he christens as V.B. Nimble, V.B. Quick, and describes a day by the good professor. So, that was a satire, of course, and I don't have to tell you that. All right, now we're going to move on to The Witch of East 72nd Street. And this is a poem by Morris Bishop, who is another very skilled poet of the 20th century. The Witch of East 72nd Street. I will put upon you the telephone curse, said the witch. The telephone will call when you are standing on a chair with a Chinese vase in either hand, and when you answer, you will hear only the derisive popping of corks. But I was armed so strong in honesty, her threats passed me like the idle wind. And I will put upon you the curse of dropping, said the witch. The dropping of tiny tacks, the dropping of food goblets, the escape of wet dishes from the eager grasping hand, the dropping of spectacles, stitches, final consonants, the abdomen. I sneered, jeered, fleered, I flouted, scouted, I pooed. I will put upon you the curse of forgetting, screamed the witch. Names, numbers, faces, old songs, old joy, words that once were magic, love, upward ways, the way home. No doubt the forgotten is well forgotten, said I. And I will put upon you the curse of remembering, bubbled the witch. Terror struck my eyes, knees, heart, and I took her charred contract and signed in triplicate. Morris Bishop is telling us that the worst curse is the curse of remembering too much. I don't have that problem, and I'm frequently sorry I don't, but now that I see what happens if you do, I'm not quite so sad about it. Yes, indeed. The Witch of East, 72nd Street by Morris Bishop. Now let me see if I can find one more. I had another one here. Ah, yes, here it is. This is one by Weir Holbrook, a poet of whom I have never heard before. And I like this poem because, like the rest of them, it's a very original theme. Very talk, that's one word, Varitalk. But it really is about the word very, Very. When very was a celibate, it meant in high degree. Its emphasis was moderate, but quite enough for me. It never thumped its little chest or raised its voice unduly, and always looked its level best when flanked by yours and truly. But in an age of shrill extremes, one adverb's ineffective. So now the varies trot in teams to gain the same objective, and no one can be mortified or sad or shy or merry unless the mood is fortified by very, very. I hope this twosome will suffice for purposes emphatic, but mated words may breed like mice sequestered in an attic, and thus produce a corollary, the intensified intensive, a triple threat that makes me very, very, very apprehensive. By Weir Holbrook, a poet. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the first name correctly. I don't know if Weir Holbrook is a man or a woman, but is whichever, he, she is a very original poet, to be sure. Yes, very talk. I don't think the New Yorker has put out a follow-up volume to the one that I have. I don't know how many are out there. I suppose every library has one, but I haven't checked. I wish they would. That's it for today. I have no idea what next week will bring. I'll think of something. I hope you all have a great week. Wherever you are, maybe you're lucky enough to be in Florida, but here in Pennsylvania, there's snow, rain, cold, and clouds once again predicted. Bye now.